All right, I will go ahead and call the meeting to order. Let it show that all three districts are represented today. Notice of the meeting was properly posted on May the 12th, 2025. And let's start with agenda item number 1, approval of the minutes of April 8th. Second. Okay, I have a motion and a second. All those in favor? Aye. Aye. Perfect. Okay, agenda item number 2, discussion and possible action regarding MIS Department quarterly telework exception request. Dane?
Well, it's the same as last quarter. It hasn't changed.
Right. Well,
we were instructed to bring it back every quarter, so here it is.
Perfect. Okay, and that was one question. Thank you for providing that report here. So just for my history, this is something that has been submitted one quarter before, or
January.
Okay, January. So this is the second installment of that.
Yes.
Okay.
It's the exact same document with today's date. Or
all right, perfect.
A more current date.
Okay. Do we have any discussion on this item? Okay. Do we have a motion? Second. Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor? Aye. Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dane.
Thank you very much.
Okay, so next we have agenda item number 3. Does anybody know if Karen is available to speak to this item?
Karen is out today.
Okay.
Can we move on to can we just return back to the item? And I'll
sure,
go
absolutely. Yeah.
The HR team.
Okay.
While Accenture is getting their presentation.
So let's just skip over agenda item number 3. And let's just go straight to number 4, discussion and possible action regarding selection, planning, oversight, and administration of the G25003 opioid abatement grant, RFP. And for this conversation, we have Jessica, and as well as we are going to need to receive a document, the packet document. Second. Okay, motion and a second. All those in favor? Aye. Okay.
I had to turn around and make sure my partner was here. Ashley, do you want to come up here with me? We did this together.
Teamwork.
Teamwork. And I'm grateful for all that our planning, or not planning, our purchasing department does in relating to that relates to our grants. So just to give a history, just a really brief history of how we got to where we are today. And so we applied for the 2024 opioid abatement several years back. I wish I would have had the exact date, but I don't have it in front of me. At that time, we went through all those applications, and we determined that the best fit for the county in regards to providing services for opioid abatement was the OU Office of Research Services, and it was a parent-child assistance program. That was a 3-year intensive case management intervention that provided home visits to pregnant and postpartum individuals who have engaged at risk substance use during their most recent pregnancy. That program helped clients build healthy lives through independent living of free substance lives free of substance-related problems and the prevention and future children from being exposed to alcohol and drug prenatally. And so that was what we chose the first time. Unfortunately, OU had contacted us and said that they suspended their program due to lack of funding, and so they were no longer able to offer. And so what we did is we opened up the portal and accepted applications. Sent it out to bid on a portal, sent it out to bid in order to identify other service partners. We received 3 applications. One from the University of Oklahoma Health Science Center. They partnered with the Star Prenatal Clinic, A Better Chance ABC Clinic, and Legal Aid Services. And their request is for $299,813.63. We also received an application from the Oklahoma Treatment Services for $210,129. and then one from the Recovery Center for $96,609.49. Due to the requirements of the RFP, this was for full funding of the $299,813 with 63 cents. So therefore, the Oklahoma Treatment Services and the Recovery Center, which both amazing programs that provide resources to our community, do not qualify for that funding at this time. And so the Oklahoma Health Science Center, in partnership, I would just like to read to you and to the public in regards to what they do. The University of Oklahoma Health Science Center seeks to sustain and expand a multidisciplinary treatment model serving pregnant and parenting women affected by opioid use disorder. The model is anchored by a coordinated partnership between the STAR Prenatal Clinic, A Better Chance Clinic, and Legal Aid Services of Oklahoma. STAR delivers integrated prenatal care to women with substance use disorders, while ABC provides pediatric follow-up and a home-based parenting intervention known as the Modified Attachment and Biobehavioral Catch-Up. The evidence-based program begins the third trimester and extends through the infant's first year, helping mothers develop and build safe, nurturing relationships with their babies, especially those born with neonatal opioid exposure. This proposal supports continued integration across STAR and ABC services to ensure a seamless care experience. All STAR patients will be referred to the ABC clinic as part of a standard postpartum care. ABC provides developmental monitoring, supportive parenting visits, and clinical services to substance-exposed infants and their caregivers. By embedding this referral process into the STAR care model, we ensure that families receive constant trauma-informed care across the prenatal period. To address critical barriers to treatment, adherence, and family stability, LASO will continue to provide on-site legal support with both clinics. Services include assistance with housing and security, public benefits, child custody, court fines, and access to identification, all of which commonly affect the patient population. LASO will dedicate a full-time attorney to pre-legal attorney and pre-legal to these efforts, offering no-cost legal services at 100% to the patients provided by STAR, served by STAR and ABC. Together, the STAR ABC LASO partnership provides a continuum of clinical, behavioral, and legal supports to promote recovery, reduce recidivism, and improve outcomes for mothers and infants impacted by opioid use. All activities will be rigorously documented and evaluated to support continuous quality improvement and long-term sustainability. This program during the year will serve 150 patients. And I was very impressed with their risk assessment, which was required, a needs assessment. And so that has been provided for you today in regards to the work that they've done along with this program. So we would be very happy to recommend the STAR Prenatal Clinic, Better Chance ABC Clinic, and Legal Aid Services in partnership with the University of Oklahoma to receive this grant funding.
Okay, thank you, Jessica. And so just to kind of recap, I know that there were certain prerequisites that this had to satisfy, one of which you mentioned it had to have the full funding of the $299,000.
Correct.
Which it satisfies. And then also, I know previous conversations determined that the services that this targets with the prenatal care and that sort of thing is also a prerequisite that needed to be met.
Yes.
Okay.
The three prerequisites for our RFP is that they had to provide a budget, and so they have a clearly outlined budget of where these resources will go towards, and that they had to have a cover letter, and then that they had to provide the questions that are requested in the RFP, as well as an assessment, needs assessment, which is required by the AG's office. So they met all those requirements. The next step, do you want to talk a little bit about the next step once they're awarded in regards to the MOUs and contacting them? Okay, so the next step, once awarded, we'll reach out and to sit down with them and learn more about their programs, talk through the quarterly reporting that will be required for us as the county, for my department to report to the AG's office, as well as I would love to have them come to policy and governance to provide monthly, or if you choose more often, monthly reports on how they're doing in their program.
Now, the time frame on this is for how many months?
So this is a 1-year program. So this will extend through July of or June 30th, 2026. Correct. Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
And within that year, they anticipate helping 150
Correct.
families or mothers.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and I will provide to each one of the offices that quarterly reporting. I can even, provide that report in the policy and governance meeting, so that way you guys can, whenever they do their presentation, can be aware of what we're reporting to the AG's office.
Yeah, I think that would be great.
Just to keep everyone in the loop.
That's perfect. Well, thank you too for your help on this RFP. I know it was kind of a trial and error type situation. Do we have any other discussion on this?
So with that being said, I move for approval.
All right, we have a motion, second, and a second. Any other discussion? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you, ladies. All right. Next, we have agenda item number 5, discussion and possible action regarding the G25004 opioid abatement grant RFP and the 2025 opioid abatement grant application through the office of the AG. And so for purposes of discussion, we have another document here that we will need to receive.
I move that we receive the document.
Second. Perfect. Motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, Jessica.
So it's already time for the 2025 AG opioid abatement grant. And so this was a 30-day turnaround in regards to providing these funds, which puts us on a very strict timeline, since we enjoyed the last experience of actually seeking service providers.
I am not able to hear.
Oh. Hi, Jen.
Hey, okay. Yes, I can. Thank you. Hi, everyone. How are you?
Hi, Jen. How are you, ma'am?
I'm doing well. Thank you all for having me in Danny's absence today. I appreciate the time on the agenda. And I'm wondering, does someone there have the slides?
Yes, we do, Jen. If you don't mind giving us just a couple of minutes, we're not quite on your agenda item yet.
Okay, sounds great.
Thank you so much. Just stand by and we'll get right back to you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, so for the 2025 opioid abatement grant, we're on a really tight turnaround, just because we enjoyed the process of seeking service providers through the RFP process. The AG actually has $29 million in grants that will be provided this round. It's a little bit different. I feel like we learned a lot from the first round of funding in regards to the expectations, and so we have Ashley and her team have done a great job in regards to amending. I think we're on our 4th amendment of questions and answers. So we've been very, I feel like, sensitive to the community in regards to making sure we're answering the questions and getting really quality service provider applications from them, as we've identified more questions and been able to amend those Q&As that have gone out to the community. And so some things that are a little bit different, just to give you an overview of that, I did include their webinar that you had a chance to look through. But just like the previous funding, those that qualify are municipalities, school districts, including technology school districts, as well as public trusts, which are sole beneficiary in its town, school, or county. So, of course, Oklahoma County qualifies for these funds this round as well. And then their priority strategies for the 2025 opioid abatement applications as medication for the treatment of opioid use disorder, contingency management, recovery housing, supporting employment services, and naloxone distribution. another thing that is a little bit different, that this expands across 3 years of funding. So those that maybe just need 1 year of funding or are only interested in receiving a grant for 2 years would not qualify. It has to be services over a 3-year period, and we're awarding funds up to $900,000. And so what that looks like is that if someone wants to apply for $900,000, they will receive those in equal increments of $300,000 per year. And so that's an important change that the community needs to be aware of. And that is the reason why we extended our deadline to tomorrow for us to be able to receive the bids to be opened at the BOCC meeting, which puts us on a very tight timeline of scoring and evaluating all of those bids in order for us to make a selection on the 19th. And so to the point of the timeline, what you received today is a timeline that we're on in regards to being successful in this grant application. We have already solicited for the grants that started on April 21st. We've made 4 amendments as discussed to the Q&A deadline, and it published several times between now and then. Proposals are due on the 14th, which is tomorrow. The AG's application portal opens up for 30 days on the 12th, and so that is happening now. And then once we open the bids on tomorrow, then we will make the selection on Monday. We called a special policy and governance for that. Once that selection is made, then we will start the process of contacting that service provider and writing the grant application. Then we will have to put together an MOU with that provider to go across the BOCC for approval. And then we will have to have that submitted by June 11th. And then on June 12th, the application will be reviewed by the AG's subcommittee. And then on July 1st, they will begin in-person meetings. And then July 31st, that is when they'll make the recommendation of those awards. And so that is the timeline of what we're looking at. And I just want to answer any questions that you may have and then receive approval in order for us to move forward in this process. I know we've sent out the RFPs, but just if you have any other questions or direction, would love to receive it now.
Well, again, thank you for your work on this. I know with the short turnaround time, it's going to be a lot of reading here in the next few days. So certainly appreciate your time and attention to that. Any discussion?
Madam Chair, with that being said, I move for approval.
All right, we have a motion. Second. And a second. Any other discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, ladies.
Thank you.
All right, so let's move on to agenda item number 6, discussion and possible action regarding policies, processes, and procedures regarding the ARPA funding allocation. And so at this point, I think we can go ahead and have Jen back in from Accenture. Oh, okay. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay,
And
all
I'm
right. We are on
happy to
agenda
share.
item number 6. And so did you have a report or anything to share with us? Can you share your screen or anything of that nature?
Yes, I do have a report, and I've just pressed the share button. So let's see if it comes up. Let's see here. Okay. All right.
Perfect. Thank you for
Okay,
joining us
great.
today.
Absolutely. Thank you all for having me in Danny's absence. I understand I have large shoes to fill, but I appreciate the time to come and give you all an update. What we're hoping today to get out of it is just an overview of where we are with expenditures and liquidation, and then also talk to you about site visits and some of the upcoming next steps we have for our ARPA subrecipients. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and get started. And apologies, I've got the PDF pulled up here. So this is a slide you all have definitely seen before. $154 million obligated to the city. Currently $94 million liquidated and $60 million remaining to expend. We've got some donut charts here that talk about projects by completion based on expenditures is your first chart, and the light yellow shows the percentage of projects that are complete. Blue is 50% or more completed, and the darker yellow or the mustard color is the 100% complete. On the right, you've got all projects based on county liquidation. And for this purpose, liquidation means essentially that these are funds that the county has transferred out to the subrecipients out into the community. Next, we've got projects by completion. So similar colors mean exact same things as before, your county projects, your subrecipients, building authority, and then your criminal justice projects. Moving on, we've got a chart here of the county project expenditures, highlighted green, yellow, and red. Up top, we've got our completely expensed projects, and at the bottom, the elevators at the JJC, 3.86% expended. So you all have this in your packet. You can kind of take a look through and see the authorized amount and what has been expensed and then remaining to expend. Bottom chart, similar, subrecipients, project expenditures. And we're going to actually go through a couple of these from our site visits that have taken place in the last 2 months. I'll pause there. Any questions?
I don't think
No?
so. No, this is great
Okay.
information. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. Okay. So we'll get in now to our subrecipient management. So we like to say this is the fun part of federal funds, and particularly has been a very rewarding part of the ARPA funding process. Over the last about 8 weeks or so, we have visited multiple sites, your recipients that have received ARPA funding. And Danny has chose to highlight a few of those here. So we'll walk through, and one thing to note, we tried to add some narrative here about the impacts of these projects and what they've done to the committee for the community. And so we'll start with the 111 project. This is allocating funds to fulfill requests from 58 local agency partners through their care sharing platform, Care Portal. And this just gives you a bit of an illustration about what this does, specifically the requests that come up from those in crisis situations. We also performed a site visit at OKC Renaissance. This was a really interesting day and an interesting project. They had multiple people come and meet us on site that are working on it. You can see a photo here of both the house and the adjacent lot. And then to the right is essentially it's their plan development or their site plan for what this organization will do. They were really enthusiastic, very thankful. It was just a wonderful day visiting that site. Next, Danny visited the First Americans Museum, and it talks here about the Discovery Center has an objective to educate 40,000 school-age children each year, which we thought was a pretty incredible number and pretty incredible impact with this allocation. We also have the Care Center. This is helping children share their abuse stories in a very safe environment and for the investigations, and they connect the families with resources that essentially allow them to begin their healing process. The ARPA funds here specifically enabled the hiring of a Spanish-speaking licensed professional counselor, which resulted in 480 therapy sessions that would not have been possible without the ARPA funding. So again, very impactful. The Dale Rogers Training Center is a business incubator, and it assists individuals with disabilities. Presently, there's 15 individuals with disabilities that have successfully gone through the assessment and are preparing to begin their workshop. Remerge Oklahoma was another site visit, and it is supporting mothers and families through a comprehensive diversion program. ARPA, in this instance, allowed Remerge to increase its capacity to help an additional 25 women each year, totaling 100 women million annually, along with 265 children. Rebuilding Together Oklahoma City. This was a really interesting site visit as well. We learned that they were able to provide services that have previously not been available to residents. And again, just really impactful. We thought these photos, while we were given a large packet, these photos really showed the extensive renovation that was able to be done with the ARPA funding. Next is the State Fair of Oklahoma. This was repairs and enhancements to the facility's lighting, which is depicted here in these photos. And then finally, last week, we visited the CSU campus. CSU Youth Services is essentially creating a new campus. In this photo, the lot that's behind the folks sitting at the table was acquired. They've gone through a zoning process here. The ARPA funding in this instance is essentially paying for, it paid for the SPUD, some of the zoning administration that needed to be done, as well as construction documents, a construction manager, and architectural drawings that will essentially be the prerequisite to the build out here. And of note, this was a fairly $300,000 allocation. The entirety of this project is a $6 million project. So the ARPA funding really served as a catalyst to get the construction administration underway. And then if it's okay, I'll just sort of go through the final slides here and then pause for some questions.
Perfect.
So in terms of reporting, the last submission was due to the Department of the Treasury at the end of April. Next up, at the end of July, will be both the quarterly report and the large programmatic report that is due. This will show all spend and impact through the last day of June 2025. And then we'll have another report due in October. This will be a quarterly submission. And so you can see here, Danny's illustrated green is all done. So it's certainly nearing the last quarter, essentially, of work that will need to be done for ARPA reporting to the Department of the Treasury. And then a couple items of note here. So a look ahead. Our team is working with Jessica. We are going to continue our site visits and desk reviews in the month of June. We're also in the process of putting together a curriculum for a design thinking workshop that will essentially bring the subrecipients together to talk about their outcomes and impacts they've made on the community. This will be an all-day workshop in June. We're going to actually have two workshops, one in the morning and one in the afternoon. The save the dates are in the process of going out to the subrecipients for that. We're also going to hold another compliance webinar. In this webinar, we're going to talk about a couple of things that we've observed from our site visits. The first of those is the need to have Title VI language on websites or in a visible place where services are being offered. We're also going to talk about tightening up KPIs and project scopes. As you all know, some of these projects were allocated funding 2 or more years ago. And as such, we found that while scopes remain consistent, in some instances, they do need to be tightened up and KPIs revised accordingly, so we can best report to the Department of the Treasury the impacts that these projects have had. We're also going to spend some time here on procurement. As we've done site visits, we want to be sure that all of your subrecipients understand what is required for federal funding. Various thresholds, specifically that $10,000 to $49,999, that they require 3 quotes that must be retained, and the importance of this for the federal audit. that will ultimately come with the use of these federal funds. So that workshop will be a mandatory workshop for those that have not yet completed their project. And then this just goes into, again, quarterly reporting in July, as well as that annual report. And then Danny has listed here some of the long-term look-aheads. As you see, every time Danny reports to you, we've got our subrecipient monitoring and reporting schedule. So that's in your packet for you all to take a look at. And then I think at this time, I'm happy to take any questions that you may have or anything that needs additional clarification.
Sure. Thank you so much for those updates, Jennifer. Like you said,
Sure.
doing those site visits and getting those updates on really how this funding really impacts the community is the fun part of it. So thank you for taking
Yes.
the time to do that. Do we have any discussion on anything? Any particular project or anything to discuss?
I do, and I look forward to having some follow-up meetings. I am concerned that several D1 projects, we are funding some things that I do have some deep concerns with. Meaning that several projects, they don't have the funds to finish. That's a deep concern. Why are we funding projects where they do not have the majority of they do not have funds to finish their projects. So why are we funding these projects? So I do have some deep concerns as it relates to that. So I will be following up with Accenture on those projects. And like I said, I know we are new to this process. So but again, I do have some deep concerns as it relates to that.
Well, and I know Accenture has been very good to really kind of dig down into concerns and just really kind of address it, break it down, see what's going on here, the risk versus the reward and that sort of thing. And, I mean, the way I see it is, new or not, it's good to have questions,
And I again have some deep concerns. I mean, we're talking about one particular project. It's a $6 million project, but this one entity only has raised $900,000, which includes our funds. So I do have some deep concerns that this one particular entity will not be able to finish their project. So what do we do if they do not finish their project?
Right. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, those are obviously legitimate concerns. Jennifer, would you be available to talk offline with District 1 Chief Deputy Pettis to kind of help address what concerns that he might have?
Absolutely. Yes, of course.
Perfect. Anything else to discuss here? All right. Anything else to add, Jennifer?
No, I just want to thank you all for your time today and giving us the space on the agenda. We certainly appreciate it.
Well, we thank you for taking the time.
Sure. Thank you all so much. And I will be in touch to get the D1 meeting scheduled as well.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Okay. Thank you all.
Jen, will you stay on for the Donahue discussion, please?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, Jessica, thank you for mentioning that particular project. Were there any comments that you wanted to say initially about it, or? Okay. Perfect. Okay. So if that is all on agenda item number 6, do we have a motion to receive report? So moved. Okay. All right. A motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Perfect. Okay, now agenda item number 7, discussion and possible action regarding policies, processes, procedures related to ARPA subrecipient between the BOCC and the Oklahoma Department of Mental Health and Substance Abuse Services. Okay, so Jessica, I see you have an attachment here.
So I added this to the agenda because we have been having bi-weekly conversations with the philanthropic community that donated in partnership $10 million towards the initiative to move Griffin Memorial Hospital to Oklahoma City. which was going to be named the Donahue. And so I know that the chief deputies have also been on the majority of these calls. And so at the last meeting that we had yesterday with Skip, who is their CFO, it was discussed along with the other philanthropic donors that we're to the point where we are possibly interested in requesting funding back, since the original initiative of putting the Donahue at the OSU in partnership with OSU, where that land is located, is no longer going to come to fruition. They had wonderful news yesterday in regards to the state ARPA funds being possibly recommended and possibly going to be funded by the legislature in regards to a new initiative which will fund the purchase and remodel of the SSM hospital. And so still waiting to hear if that is a final, this is the next direction in order to improve mental health in our community and continue the initiative. But it was a consensus of most of those that had received those funds, since that project didn't come to fruition in what was suggested initially, and the fact that the state ARPA funds will cover the full cost of the purchase of SSM and remodel, that they did state that at this moment pertaining to that project, our funds were not needed. And so we are still in the process of gaining understanding of, have any of those funds been already utilized towards construction costs or lease purchasing or paying for the lease, or architectural design? Did they use the county dollars? Would be for us to reach out to OSU Healthy Minds, Healthy Living to determine where they're at in regards to those funding, and are they able to reimburse all of those philanthropic partners if those funds have been used. And so I just wanted to provide an update. And then, of course, you have all been on these calls, and, if you have any other further discussion, but just to make you aware of where we're at in this process, because it is important for us to request, if you determine to request for those funds, to start that process, because we need to get it in the hands of those that can utilize it. Just wanted to open it up for discussion, and then we'll definitely, continue to work to keep you updated on the progress.
Well, and I just also wanted to clarify, I know the all of the philanthropic dollars totaled $10 million, of which we contributed $1.5 million, correct? Okay, and so that's what we are looking at. I know there's still a lot of unknowns that are yet to be determined, most of which is, have they spent any of that $1.5 million back? And whether they have or whether they haven't, obviously this is something that, I feel like because the project kind of changed, that those are monies that we should claw back or get refunded, in which, like you said, to reallocate to some other project. And of course, time is of the essence, the sooner the better, but I appreciate your work on this. I know you have been on those calls as well, Deputy Pettis. And so I think we're still in a fact-finding phase now to really determine what we're dealing with. But I think we are probably all in agreement that eventually, this is something that we would like to obtain back to reallocate to other, ventures. So
I think we should go ahead and get the ball rolling. Based off of the previous calls, Skip stated that they was going to give the funds back. They was going to refund the funds back, and I know that several of those foundations have put in writing that they and Jessica, if you can talk about several of those foundations have requested funds back. Am I correct with that?
Yes, that is correct. There was a letter, a template that was created just as a resource, and so two of those foundations are in the process of requesting those funds back. I don't know if the Oklahoma Department of Mental Health has received that as of today, but it was discussed on the call that they are aware that those letters are coming. They're aware that that funding is going to be requested to be returned, but they do hope and that as they learn more and finalize the details with SSM, they said that they will reach back out to everyone in order to fund priorities moving forward. The letter that the template that was drafted, I asked Skip if that would suffice in regards to a request back from the county, and he said of course. And I'm sure Accenture, just with compliance and their partnership in this, would make a recommendation of what that would look like. And of course, we would do our due diligence and compliance of if there are some of the funds that have been spent, we need proof of payment. We need documentation of what that is. And so there's still a lot of details that need to be worked through. The main reason for putting this on the agenda, one was just to provide an update and then just get direction from you to allow me to continue to answer questions and sit at the table with OSU to be able to advocate for being able to properly utilize those in the community.
Right.
I'm kind of feeling that we should move forward with requesting that the DA draft a letter and that we formally request the funds back. And so that's kind of the direction. So with that being said, I move that we formally request that the district attorney's office request the $1.5 million back from the Oklahoma Department of Mental Health and Substance Abuse for the full repayment of the $1.5 million, and that the $1.5 million be split by the 3 districts. So that is my motion.
Okay.
Do you want to have a little bit more
Yes,
further
yeah.
discussion?
Discussion, please.
Thank you for that motion. I just want to add before the vote for further discussion, just to make sure you are aware that this is a policy decision, that this isn't a clawback situation, and Accenture definitely jump in if you'd like to add to that. We are not violating scope because we did utilize those funds in order to help Griffin. It was very vague in regards to the subrecipient agreement. That's why I attached it. But it is a policy decision as to what Chief Pettis is asking for, and a decision that you guys, the commissioners, will decide what is best for the county. And so I just wanted to make sure that we don't use the words clawback, that we're using it as a policy decision, that this did not come to fruition as what was explained to the county for the use of funds, and that we would have the DA draft a legal document to request those. I think it's a great idea. I just want to make sure that for compliance and with on Accenture's side that this isn't a clawback. It is a policy request due to the outcomes of what had happened in regards to them not being able to utilize that land as described and having to take a completely different approach moving forward.
Perfect. Thank you for the clarification. Certainly, we want to maintain compliance in all of our processes and procedures.
Jessica, real quick, did they give you a timeline on when they'll have answers of, the questions of like how much was spent, that kind of stuff?
Sure. So on the call, in regards to next steps, Skip was going to get us in contact with who is the main contact at OSU. And so I was going to personally reach out to him just to introduce myself and ask some questions and gain some more understanding. And then it was recommended that we would go as a group in order to sit down with them in person and have this as an in-person discussion. And so we'll be working towards scheduling that, hopefully as soon as possible next week. And then in regards to the SSM decision for where exactly for the purchase of SSM Hospital, and if they're going to get that full funding, they said that it's a couple weeks out before the legislature actually looks at it. So it's still a lot of unknowns for them as well. But positive news for the mental health in Oklahoma and them being able to complete that project. But we'll try to get our meeting as soon as possible in order to request those funds, should that be the purview of the commissioners in this board.
All right. Do we have any other discussion? Okay, we have a motion. We have a motion on the table. Do we have a second? I will second the motion. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
I would like to abstain just because I don't know what my commissioner would be in favor of.
Perfect. Okay. All right. Motion carries. And then also in regards to the conversations that Jessica, our county manager, would make herself available for to kind of represent us in these conversations. Do we need a motion to go ahead and recommend that she be our representative in these conversations?
Yes. Can we put a timeline if you don't mind?
I
Jessica,
like timelines.
because one of the things I did not put a timeline on the drafted letter that the DA office need to do, and so I just now thought about it. I didn't put a timeline on it. So your timeline, what is your suggestion?
So you know how much I like deadlines, timelines, and checklists. So I will contact the DA today in order to request a DA a letter to talk further with them in regards to what that looks like. And so once I receive direction, I will definitely keep all of the offices updated. I would like to have that letter in hand for whenever we meet with OSU and already have that sent to
That would
the
be
Oklahoma
great.
Department of Mental Health.
Yeah.
Oklahoma Department of Mental Health is who we have our subrecipient agreement with. And so, but then we can also forward a copy of that to Healthy Minds, Healthy Living at OSU. And so timeline would be today in order to reach out to the DA. And then just as soon as I receive that letter and that we schedule that meeting, then I will be able to provide each office an update and then also be able to provide an update at the next policy and governance meeting. Hopefully have it on the schedule. Accenture will be able to work with you in regards to what that looks like and reallocating those funding. I would highly suggest be thinking about who that would go to. What we don't want to do is move those funds directly back into the 14-15 account and have them sitting there because we don't want them to appear to be unencumbered. So we really need to have in mind for whenever at the next policy and governance meeting, whenever you vote on, if you do decide to divide those, I don't know if that was part of your
That was part
part
of
of
the
your
motion.
so
That
in
was
your
part of
motion,
the
when you're going to divide those that $1.5 million equally at the next policy and governance meeting, if we could kind of have an idea of where those are going to go, that'll make our compliance and this process a lot smoother.
Yeah, I agree.
I agree.
So I will email you a timeline.
All right, thank you.
Everyone, thank you.
So do we actually need a motion on?
If we could, please.
Okay.
I think that would be a nice directive.
Okay, so I move.
I'll second. All right. Any other discussion? All right. All those in favor say aye.
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 Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your work on this, Jessica. We really appreciate it. All right. Do we have any citizens signed up to participate? Perfect. Okay. Board comments, District 3.
I just want to thank everybody that's put all their time and effort into this between Accenture, purchasing, Jessica. There's been a lot of different hands going
Yes.
into a lot of different projects here.
Yes. A lot going on.
Mhm.
I agree. District 1. All right. I don't have any comments either. Any new business? All right. A motion to adjourn?
Second.
All right. A motion and a second. All those in favor? Aye. All right. Thank you very much.